The sun bleeds copper across the Arizona territory, casting long shadows over steel rails that cut through the desert like God's own knife. But today, these tracks carry more than freight trains and broken dreams. Elena Blackwood lies bound to the iron, her Cherokee blood singing defiance even as hemp rope cuts into her wrists. Her torn calico dress reveals more than modesty should allow, but her green eyes burn with the fire of her ancestors, unbroken, untamed. The distant whistle grows louder. 2 minutes, maybe less. Dust kicks up from wagon wheels as Samuel Tucker rounds the bend, his weathered hands gripping leather reins. For 3 years he's avoided this stretch of track, avoided the memories that haunt every mile of steel. But fate has other plans. His blue eyes meet hers, across 50 yards of scrub and stone. Time stops. She's beautiful in the way wildfire is beautiful. Dangerous, consuming, impossible to ignore. Her lips part slightly, whether in prayer or curse. He cannot tell. But something in her gaze pierces straight through his carefully built walls. The train whistle screams again, closer now. Samuel Tucker has 90 seconds to make a choice that will change everything. Cut her free and face the demons he's been running from, or ride away and let another innocent die for his cowardice. His hand moves to the knife on his belt. Before we dive deeper into Samuel's impossible choice, drop a comment below and let us know where you're watching from. Your stories of courage inspire ours. The blade slides under the first rope as the earth begins to tremble. Samuel's hands shake, not from fear of the approaching locomotive, but from the weight of recognition. Cherokee features that defiant tilt of the chin, the way she holds herself even in the face of death. She could be one of them. One of the family he destroyed 10 years ago in a canyon, much like this one. "Easy now," he whispers, sawing through the hemp. His voice carries the rasp of a man who's spoken little in recent years. Train's got maybe 30 seconds. Elena's eyes never leave his face. She's memorizing him. He realizes. The scar along his jaw, the gray threading his dark hair, the way his cavalry coat hangs loose on shoulders that once carried the weight of authority. If she dies today, she wants to remember who tried to save her. The second rope parts. He moves to her ankles, his knife working faster now. The locomotive's headlamp cuts through the dust like a yellow eye, hunting. "Why?" she asks, her voice barely audible over the growing roar. Samuel's blade freezes for a heartbeat. It's the same question that's haunted him since Broken Canyon, since the night he learned the difference between following orders and doing right. "Because I've got debts to pay," he says finally, cutting through the last bind. He hauls her up as the train rounds the final curve, its whistle shrieking like a banshee. Elena's legs buckle, rope burn, and 2 days without water have taken their toll. Without thinking, Samuel sweeps her into his arms, her body warm and trembling against his chest. They dive into the sagebrush as 20 cars of steel and steam thunder past, close enough that the heat singes the air around them. Elena buries her face against his shoulder, her breath hot through his shirt. For a moment, they're just two souls clinging to life in a hard land that shows no mercy to the weak or unlucky. When the dust settles, she pulls back to study his face. Her fingers trace the scar on his jaw, a memento from a Comanche lance. "You've killed before," she observes. "Not an accusation, just a fact." "Yes, ma'am." Samuel sets her down carefully, his hands lingering perhaps a moment longer than necessary, at her waist. "Question is, who wanted you dead, and why?" Elena straightens her torn dress as best she can, salvaging what dignity the desert sun and rope burns haven't stolen. "Name's Elena Blackwood. I carry something men would kill for." She pauses, weighing how much truth to share with this scarred stranger who saved her life. Your former cavalry. It's Samuel's turn to study her. The way she reads his bearing, his scars, the careful way she avoids mentioning what treasure she carries. She's more than just another frontier woman caught in the wrong place. Samuel Tucker. I run cattle now. Small spread, 10 miles north. The men who did this, they'll be back when they realize I'm not buzzard food. Elena looks toward the horizon, where heat waves dance like spirits. I can't ask you to. You're not asking. Samuel's voice carries the finality of a man who's made his choice. You're coming home with me, at least until you're strong enough to fight your own battles. Something passes between them in that moment. Understanding, perhaps, or recognition of kindred damage. Elena nods once, accepting not just his offer, but the unspoken promise behind it. As they walk toward his wagon, Samuel can't help but notice the proud set of her shoulders, the way she moves despite her injuries. She's a fighter, this one, and God help him, he's starting to remember what it feels like to have something worth protecting again. The sun climbs higher as they leave the scene behind, but both know this is just the beginning. In the distance, dust clouds suggest riders, too many riders for a social call. Mr. Tucker, Elena says softly as they reach his wagon. Those men who tied me to the tracks, they work for Marcus Donovan, and Marcus Donovan doesn't forgive or forget. Samuel helps her up onto the wagon seat, his jaw tightening at the name. Every cattleman in 3 territories knows Donovan's reputation. Railroad boss, land grabber, and worse things whispered in saloons after midnight. Then I reckon we'd better get you somewhere safe to heal up, Samuel says, taking up the reins, because when Donovan comes calling, you'll want to be ready for the dance. As the wagon rolls north toward Samuel's homestead, neither speaks of the electricity that crackled between them during those desperate moments by the tracks. But it hangs in the air, like the promise of a storm, dangerous and inevitable. Behind them, 3 riders pause at the scene, studying the cut ropes and scattered evidence. Marcus Donovan will not be pleased, and an angry Donovan is a problem that won't wait for anyone to be ready. The dance is about to begin, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Samuel's homestead sits in a valley where cottonwoods drink from a year-round creek, their leaves whispering secrets to the wind. The cabin is sturdy pine and stone, built by a man who knows the value of solid walls when trouble comes calling. Elena notices the gun ports cut into the shutters, the cleared fields of fire around the house. This isn't just a home, it's a fortress. You expecting war, Mr. Tucker? She asks as he helps her down from the wagon. In this territory, war finds you whether you're expecting it or not. Samuel's eyes scan the ridgelines out of habit. Come on, let's get those rope burns tended. Inside, the cabin reflects its owner, sparse but clean, everything in its place. A stone fireplace dominates one wall, flanked by shelves holding more books than most frontier homes see in a lifetime. Elena runs her fingers along the leather spines. Shakespeare, Whitman, military histories. Not what she expected from a cattle rancher. Surprised? Samuel asks, setting a kettle on the stove. Man gets lonely enough. Books become better company than most people. Elena settles into a wooden chair, suddenly aware of how her torn dress gapes at the shoulder. Samuel's eyes flick to the exposed skin before he deliberately turns away, busying himself with medical supplies. The consideration touches her more than bold stares would have. Tell me about this treasure you carry, he says, his back still turned. The one men would kill for. Elena hesitates, then reaches into her bodice, withdrawing a rolled piece of soft doeskin. Samuel turns as she unfurls it on the table, an intricately drawn map, marked with Cherokee symbols and landmarks. Even in the lamplight, veins of gold seem to shimmer in the ink. My great-grandfather was a Cherokee chief who hid tribal gold before the soldiers came. The removal. Only 3 people knew where. Her voice grows quiet. Now there's just, me and my cousin Lily. Samuel leans closer, studying the map. His proximity sends warmth through Elena's chest. The scent of leather and sage. The careful way his fingers trace the markings without touching hers. And Donovan knows about this? He has Lily. The words come out harder than Elena intended. Took her 3 weeks ago. Said he'd trade her life for the map's location. But you didn't trade. Elena's green eyes flash. Because Lily's the only one who can read the old symbols. Give Donovan this map without her, and he kills us both anyway. With her? She lets the implication hang. Samuel straightens, understanding dawning in his expression. You need to rescue her first. I tried. That's how I ended up decorating railroad tracks. Elena's laugh holds no humor. Donovan's got 20 men. I've got desperation and a derringer, with 2 shots. Samuel moves to the window, watching the approach road. Something in his posture changes. Soldier replacing rancher. Desperation's got you this far. But if you're going after Donovan's men, you'll need more than courage. I can't ask you to... You're not asking. He turns back to her. Decision made. I told you. I've got debts to pay. Their eyes meet across the small room, and something electric passes between them. Elena rises from the chair, moving closer until she can see the gold flecks in his blue eyes. What kind of debts? Samuel's jaw tightens. The kind that wake you up screaming. The kind that make a man wonder if there's any redemption left in this world. Elena reaches up, her fingertips barely grazing the scar on his jaw. Cherokee, she whispers. The single word hits Samuel like a physical blow. He steps back, but Elena follows, pressing closer. Tell me. Broken Canyon. 10 years ago. Samuel's voice is barely audible. I was following orders, rounding up families for relocation. There was a misunderstanding. Shots fired. He closes his eyes. When the smoke cleared, there was a woman about your age. 2 children, all dead because I pulled a trigger too fast. Elena's hand stills against his cheek. Their names. Sarah Crow. Her children were Little Fox and Dancing Bear. Elena's voice breaks. Sarah was my cousin. Those children were... She swallows hard. They were everything to our family. The weight of revelation settles between them like a stone wall. Samuel staggers back as if struck, his face draining of color. Jesus Christ! Elena, But she doesn't retreat. Instead, she steps closer, her hand still touching his scarred face. You've been carrying this guilt for 10 years. I killed your family. Samuel's words come out raw, broken. How can you even stand to look at me? Elena studies his face, the pain etched in every line, the way his shoulders bow under invisible weight. Because I see a man who's been dying inside for a decade. Because you saved my life today, knowing what it might cost you. Her voice strengthens. Because Sarah would have forgiven you. She was that kind of woman. Samuel's breath catches. How do you know? Because I know you. Elena's thumb traces his jawline. You're not a killer, Samuel Tucker. You're a protector who made a terrible mistake. The distance between them closes to nothing. Samuel's hands come up to frame her face, his thumbs brushing away tears she didn't know were falling. The air grows thick with possibility, with years of loneliness and guilt seeking absolution. Elena, he whispers, her name a prayer on his lips. She rises on her toes, her mouth a breath away from his. Sometimes the only way to heal is to... The crash of splintering wood explodes through the cabin as the front door bursts inward. 3 men pour through. Donovan's hired guns, weapons drawn. The moment between Samuel and Elena shatters like glass. "Well, well," drawls the lead gunman, a lean scarecrow with dead eyes. "Looks like we found Donovan's runaway bird, and she's made herself a friend." Samuel's hand inches toward the Colt on his hip, but the gunman's weapon is already trained on Elena's chest. "Wouldn't if I were you, soldier boy. Boss wants the lady alive. Well, that's negotiable." "What does Donovan want?" Samuel's voice carries the calm of a man who's faced death before. "The map, of course, and the girl who can read it." The gunman's smile reveals tobacco-stained teeth. "See, we got ourselves a problem. Little Lily's been stubborn about translating them Cherokee chicken scratches. Figured her cousin might be more cooperative." Elena steps protectively in front of Samuel, despite being unarmed. "Lily's alive? For now. But Donovan's patience is wearing thin." The gunman gestures with his pistol. "Map, lady. Now." Elena's eyes flick to Samuel, some silent communication passing between them. She moves toward the table where the doeskin map lies spread, but as she reaches for it, Samuel explodes into action. Years of cavalry training erupt in a blur of violence. Samuel hurls the oil lamp at the nearest gunman while diving behind the heavy wooden table. Elena drops flat as gunfire erupts, splinters of pine showering around them like deadly rain. The cabin fills with smoke and cordite. Samuel's Colt barks twice, and one of Donovan's men crumples, but the scarecrow leader is already backing toward the door, Elena's map clutched in his fist. "Much obliged for the hospitality," he shouts over the chaos. "Donovan says to tell you. Sunrise tomorrow at Devil's Canyon. The girl and the map for your lady friend. Come alone, or we start sending pieces of little Lily back to the reservation." The surviving gunmen disappear into the night, leaving Samuel and Elena in the smoke-filled ruins of what moments before had been sanctuary. Samuel checks her for injuries, his hands gentle despite the violence that just erupted around them. "You hurt?" he asks, his eyes searching her face. Elena shakes her head, but her hands tremble as she surveys the damage. Bullet holes stitch across the walls, and the overturned furniture tells the story of how quickly safety can become nightmare. They have the map now. And Lily. ... We'll get her back. Samuel's voice carries absolute certainty. "Both of them!" Elena looks at him through the drifting smoke. This man who moments ago confessed to killing her family, who just risked his life to protect her. "This isn't your fight, Samuel." "Like hell it isn't." Samuel holsters his gun and moves to a loose floorboard near the fireplace. Beneath it lies an arsenal, rifles, ammunition, and something wrapped in oiled canvas. The moment I cut those ropes, it became my fight. He unwraps the canvas, revealing a cavalry saber, its blade etched with campaign honors. Elena recognizes it for what it is, not just a weapon, but a symbol of the man Samuel used to be, before guilt drove him into exile. "Broken Canyon taught me something," Samuel says, testing the saber's balance. "Sometimes you can't run from your past. Sometimes you have to ride straight toward it." Elena moves closer, her fingers trailing along the flat of the blade. "And sometimes," she says softly, "the past is exactly where you find your future." Their eyes meet over the steel, and this time, no gunmen interrupt. Samuel sets the saber aside and pulls Elena into his arms, his mouth finding hers with desperate hunger. The kiss tastes of smoke and possibility, of 10 years of loneliness finally finding its cure. When they break apart, both are breathing hard. Elena's hands rest against Samuel's chest, feeling his heartbeat strong and steady beneath her palms. After tomorrow, she whispers. Assuming we survive. We'll survive. Samuel's thumb traces her lower lip. And then we'll have a lifetime to figure out what comes next. Elena smiles, the first genuine smile Samuel has seen from her. I like the sound of that, Samuel Tucker. Outside, coyotes howl in the distance, and somewhere a clock ticks toward dawn. Tomorrow will bring Devil's Canyon and whatever fate awaits there. But tonight, in the ruins of Samuel's cabin, two damaged souls have found something worth fighting for. Something worth living for. Devil's Canyon earned its name honestly, a maze of red rock spires and hidden passages where Apache warriors once disappeared like smoke, leaving frustrated cavalry units chasing shadows. Now it serves as Marcus Donovan's chosen arena, a place where screams echo off stone walls and bodies disappear without trace. Samuel and Elena approach the canyon mouth as the sun bleeds orange across the desert sky. They've spent the night planning, preparing, and discovering that desire can burn even hotter than revenge when time might be running out. Remember the plan, Samuel murmurs, checking his weapons one final time. The cavalry saber hangs at his side alongside his Colt, while a Winchester rifle rests across his saddle. I draw their attention. You circle around through Widow's Pass. Elena nods. Her own weapons, Samuel's spare pistol, and a Cherokee hunting knife, secured beneath her riding coat. She's exchanged her torn dress for men's clothing, and with her hair braided back, she looks like a warrior from the old stories her grandmother used to tell. Samuel. Elena catches his arm as they prepare to separate. If something happens to me, nothing's going to happen. Samuel's voice carries absolute conviction. I didn't find you just to lose you in some God-forsaken canyon. Their kiss is brief but fierce, a promise sealed in the shadow of red rock walls. Then Elena spurs her horse toward the hidden trail, leaving Samuel to ride alone into the heart of the canyon. Donovan waits in a natural amphitheater, surrounded by a dozen men with rifles trained on the entrance. He's exactly what Elena described, a bear of a man with silver hair and cold eyes, wearing a tailored coat that marks him as railroad money. Beside him, a young Cherokee girl sits bound to a chair, her defiant expression marking her as Elena's kin. Tucker! Donovan's voice booms off the canyon walls. Heard you cause some excitement at your place last night. Samuel rides closer, his hands visible but ready. Let the girl go, Donovan. This is between us. Is it now? Donovan laughs, the sound harsh as breaking glass. See, I think it's between me and that map your lady friend carries. Where is the lovely Miss Blackwood? Safe. Samuel's horse shifts beneath him, sensing his rider's tension. And she'll stay that way until Lily's free. Donovan signals, and one of his men presses a knife to Lily's throat. The girl doesn't flinch, but her eyes find Samuel's with desperate hope. Seems we got ourselves what you might call a Mexican standoff. Except, I hold all the cards. Do you? Samuel's voice carries a dangerous quiet. That's when Elena's war cry echoes from the canyon. Rim above. Cherokee words of power and fury, passed down through generations of warriors who never surrendered. Donovan's men look up in confusion, just as Elena appears like an avenging angel, her rifle speaking death from the high rocks. The canyon erupts in chaos. Samuel draws and fires in one fluid motion, his first shot taking down Lily's guard. He spurs his horse forward as Elena's covering fire scatters Donovan's men like startled quail. But Donovan is no coward. The railroad baron draws a matched pair of ivory-handled Colts, his shots forcing Samuel to dive from his saddle behind a boulder. Lead spangs off stone as the two men circle each other like wolves, each seeking the killing angle. You think you can waltz into my territory and play hero? Donovan snarls, reloading behind cover. I built this railroad on the bones of better men than you. Samuel's answer comes in the form of cold steel. He's abandoned his guns for the cavalry saber, the weapon that once made him a legend in the Indian Wars. Donovan's eyes widen as Samuel emerges from cover, the blade singing through the air in a perfect arc. The railroad baron tries to bring his pistols to bear, but Samuel is already inside his guard. The saber takes Donovan high on the shoulder, spinning him around as his weapons go flying. This is for every innocent person you've hurt, Samuel says, pressing the point to Donovan's throat. For Lily, for Elena, for all the ghosts that haunt this canyon. Donovan spits blood, his eyes still defiant. Kill me, and my men will hunt you to the ends of the earth. Samuel looks around at the scattered bodies, at Elena helping Lily to her feet, at the map fluttering forgotten in the desert wind. What men? The remaining gunfighters have vanished like morning mist, unwilling to die for a boss who can't protect himself. In the sudden silence, only the wind speaks, carrying away the smoke and fury of violence. Elena approaches, Lily leaning on her arm. The family resemblance is strong. Both women share the same fierce eyes, the same proud bearing that conquest couldn't break. It's finished, Elena says softly, looking not at Donovan, but at Samuel. The debt is paid. Samuel nods and steps back, lowering his sword. Justice, not revenge. There's a difference. Donovan struggles to his feet, clutching his wounded shoulder. This isn't over, Tucker. The railroad. The railroad will find a new boss. Samuel interrupts. One who doesn't murder innocents for gold. As if summoned by his words, riders appear at the canyon mouth, federal marshals, their badges gleaming in the fading light. Someone, somewhere, had finally gathered enough evidence to move against Donovan's empire. Elena picks up her ancestors' map from the sand, studying the ancient symbols. Then, to Samuel's amazement, she walks to a nearby fire ring and drops the doeskin into the flames. Some treasures are worth more than gold, she says, watching generations of Cherokee secrets turn to ash. Some debts can only be paid with freedom. 6 months later, the Tucker Ranch bears little resemblance to the fortress Samuel once maintained. Children's laughter drifts from the creek where Lily teaches local kids to fish, while Elena's vegetable garden blooms in neat rows behind the rebuilt cabin. Samuel stands in the doorway, watching his wife, for that's what Elena became in a simple ceremony overlooking the valley, as she hangs wash on the line. The morning sun catches in her dark hair, and her simple dress can't hide the gentle swell of their first child growing beneath. The nightmares still come sometimes, but less often now. When they do, Elena's touch chases them away, replacing darkness with the promise of dawn. The cavalry saber hangs over the mantle, not as a weapon, but as a reminder that sometimes the past's greatest gift is showing us how to choose a better future. Samuel, Elena calls, one hand resting on her belly. The territorial governor's letter came. They're offering you the sheriff's position in Tucson. Samuel joins her by the clothesline, his arms circling her from behind. What do you think? Elena leans back against his chest, watching Lily demonstrate Cherokee knots to a fascinated audience of settler children. I think, she says softly, that some men are born to bring order to chaos, and some women are meant to stand beside them. In the distance, a train whistle sounds, not the shriek of approaching death, but the song of progress, of connections being made across an untamed land. The sound no longer brings nightmares, but promises of travelers and trade, of a future built on hope rather than fear. Samuel's hand covers Elena's on her belly, feeling the flutter of new life. "Reckon we've got enough adventure right here," he murmurs against her hair. "At least until Junior arrives." Elena turns in his arms, her smile bright as morning sunlight. "Junior might be a girl, you know. Strong Cherokee women in my family." "Then God help any man who tries to tie her to railroad tracks." Samuel laughs, and the sound carries pure joy across the valley. As they kiss in the golden light of a new day, the past finally settles into memory where it belongs. The rails still run through their territory, but now they carry hope instead of heartbreak, connection instead of conquest. Some stories end with guns blazing. Others end with the quiet triumph of love over loss, of forgiveness over vengeance. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, they end with the promise that even broken hearts can heal when they find their perfect match. The rails of redemption lead not to gold, but to something far more precious, the chance to build tomorrow on the ashes of yesterday's pain. Thank you for riding this trail with Samuel and Elena. Drop a comment below and let us know what Western tale you'd like to hear next, because in this territory, there are always more stories waiting to be told.